What's up? It's Marco from Audio Lounge. Just want to go over another thought that I came across. This one pertains to just getting amp tones, sounds, really getting the sound that's in your head out of the speaker, essentially. And my main thing that I want to talk about is the idea that rather than memorizing what a set of knobs might look like or what somebody else's settings might have looked like, you should be able to hear what they're going for and what they're boosting or cutting versus just looking at an EQ or some effect setting and going, that's what it's supposed to be and that's going to work for what I have in front of me. Because it's situational. Somebody's settings on one vocalist, say a compressor, for instance, could very, very, very much differ from that of another vocalist. It's not about necessarily just copy paste verbatim. You have to listen to the signal, use your ears. That's what everybody says, right? And it annoys people. Ultimately, a good example of this is like if you have a guitar amplifier, right? And you go to a gig and you play a great show, you love the tone, it sounds great. Then you take it home or back to your rehearsal space and you go, okay, this is exactly what it was at the gig and it sounded great there, so therefore it should sound great again, right? Not necessarily. It's in a different space altogether. There's multiple different things around it, I'm sure. Sometimes a lot of times a rehearsal space might be rehearsal. A lot of times a rehearsal space might be smaller than, a stage per se. Instead of just taking those settings and saying this is what it's supposed to be, listen and say, well, this had a lot more mid-range tonight and it was a little bit brighter than what I'm used to, but I liked that. So then when you take it back to your next room, you can listen to it and go, oh wow, this sounds really boomy in here. And even though you had it set still, don't be afraid to cut more low end out or cut some in the mid range or whatever it is. Hey, maybe it is too bright now, so I'm gonna cut back the high end, or maybe I'm gonna boost the low end to compensate because I liked the brightness. Maybe I'll take that low end and just bring it up so to compensate for that loss of it. Same thing for maybe say like a reverb setting or a delay throw. You watch a lot of YouTube videos, you learn from a friend, you see somebody else do it, in front of you. But again, like that's situational. Sometimes the tempo is different. Sometimes the key is different. Sometimes the other instruments have varying degrees of space around them to begin with, of ambience. So you can't necessarily just go, oh, well, he took this plugin and he put it like this and then he put it at 75% and it was awesome. It might not work, maybe it will. I'm not saying it's never gonna work, but I'm just saying rather than use your eyes, listen and say, well, the delay and the reverb kind of trailed off right before that next vocal came in, so I'm gonna aim for that. I'm gonna adjust that mix or that wet knob just enough to where I'm getting that same effect. Or maybe the delay, it only repeats a couple times, but yours repeats way more, so you need to compensate for that feedback knob or whatever the case may be. I think you'll get much farther, much quicker when you can just learn to know what it is that you want and say to yourself, that needs more mid-range, or this actually has too short of a tail on it, or that does need more saturation, even though it's already distorted. A bass guitar, maybe it's already distorted, but in a mix you might go, oh, it's not cutting through, and some people might get afraid to add more distortion to something that's already a distorted signal. But if it sounds good, it sounds good, right? So when you're listening to your mix and you just slap a, some sort of saturation knob on there and you can just crank it up, you might find that that's actually what you need and you shouldn't be afraid to do it. Never be afraid to stack more than one of the same plugin even after another. I think a lot of people get, again, visually it looks uncomfortable because you feel like you're not supposed to do that. But again, if that's gonna get the sound out of your head coming out of the speakers, then do it. I usually like to start with my EQ settings pretty flat, if I'm taking an amp to a gig, or even if I'm plugging in like a DI signal from something, keyboard, even a bass, like I like to start flat so I can just hear what's going on, rather than be like, oh, well, for the last recording or the last EP I did, I really boosted 60 hertz and I loved that on the bass. I'm not gonna start that way, because if anything, and maybe that's exactly the opposite of what I want to do. Maybe the low end's actually great, and I just need a little bit more mid-range or a little bit more top end on the bass. I like to just get an idea of what's happening in front of me first before I start making decisions based upon some sort of theory or previous encounter that I had. I don't think that's a practical way to go about creating and mixing. Another thing too, one of the reasons that I'm not exactly showing actual sound examples of this sort of thing is because, just like I said, I don't want it to be something where you're just looking at this and going, oh, well, he made that adjustment, so I'm gonna go to my song now and I'm gonna make that adjustment, because that's not how it works. You just have to listen and make the best decision for your situation. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear. I hope that I'm making sense with what I'm saying, and if you have questions, leave a comment and I'll try and answer it the best I can. That being said, I hope everybody has a great day. And if you found this useful, drop a like, subscribe. Thank you to anybody who's been watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.